Hi, everyone. Welcome back to this Explearning conversation between Greg and Mary Daphne. Great to see you all here today. So our topic today is about resilience and specifically 3 things that resilient people do every day. And this comes from Eric Barker, and he's done a lot of research on what that is, what resilient people do. So we're going to dive into it and unpack it and talk a little bit about it right here.
Great.
Okay. So the first one is to have goals. So having things that you want to do. So saying, I want, and then filling in the blanks. So let's just pretend I have the goal of running the New York City Marathon. So I could say as my goal, I want to run the New York City Marathon. Right?
Right.
Okay. So having a goal, why is that important? What do you think?
I mean, for me, a goal provides direction,
Yeah.
right? It gives me focus. It helps me sort of narrow the scope of what I'm doing to, maximize my effort toward a specific purpose.
Yeah, that's excellent. I love that. And it gives you that direction, because without it, it's like, well, I kind of want to do that. Maybe I'd like to try that. And it becomes just sort of like a dream or an afterthought, a pipe dream rather, right? So having a really specific one, and maybe not overdoing it, maybe just having like 2 or 3, or thinking about different areas in your life. So fitness, relationships, career, you can fill in the other categories as you wish, right? Okay, so taking my example of running the New York City Marathon would be then for the next step, which is agency. So agency is the power of like doing the action, right? Having the agency, having the ability to do and perform that action, right? So now you switch the I want, blah, 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 to I choose, blah, 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 blah. So now what you're doing is you're starting to make it actionable.
Yeah, and you're giving yourself the power, right? A want is something that may or may not be fulfilled, but something you choose is more deliberate, right? It's that you have the power to actually make this happen.
Yeah, and so it's really cool because now what's happening is you're starting to take down that or turn that goal into these bite-sizable chunks that are easily or more easily able to
accomplish.
Yeah, and manifest themselves, right? So then you want to start, not just saying I choose to run the New York City Marathon, but thinking about what steps you need to take to be able to do that. So I choose to run 5 miles today and then incrementally increase that, right? There's like all these running plans that you can do.
Mm-hmm.
So finding something like that where you have a training program.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So now you take this goal and you're starting to pare it down to more actionable steps. Right?
Yeah, I mean, that's the key, because oftentimes your goals tend to be lofty, let's just say, right? And so it may not be clear how to get from A to B. And by breaking it down into these more bite-sized steps, the path to victory becomes much clearer. So very important part of the process.
That's right. But not all journeys or paths are, just clear and open, right? Sometimes they're fraught with danger, they're fraught with adversity, they're fraught with chaos. So that leads us to the third thing that resilient people do every day, which is pathways. So pathways you can think of as, well, Eric Barker calls it the mental movie that you're playing in your mind. So basically you're thinking about like what could possibly go awry, what could go wrong. And Tim Ferriss calls this fear setting, right? So kind of thinking about what could go wrong and, doing your best to prevent that or to take action if that were to happen.
Yeah, that's also a powerful tenet of Stoicism as well, sort of understanding what could be, and going through the mental process of addressing those challenges before you encounter them.
Yeah. So it's a very powerful tool within this idea of becoming more resilient. And, really sort of thinking about, so like with that example of the marathon, maybe something that goes wrong is you overtrain and maybe you hurt your ankles or your joints. So taking into consideration, like, what if that were to happen, like, what can you do to either heal from it quickly, recover from it, or to prevent it altogether?
Yeah, the other reason I like that is often we think once we've accomplished our goal, everything is hunky-dory, right? That suddenly life is all unicorns and rainbows. And that's not necessarily the case. Even if you reach your goal, it may not be everything you thought it was. Or in the process of reaching it, you may have suffered or encountered things that made you feel bad, right? That weren't to your liking. So by walking through the different scenarios on the path to that goal, I think it helps you think about the journey, not just the destination, which is very important.
Yeah, I love that. It's so important. And I think sometimes we put too much emphasis on the final destination, and we sort of think of the journey as just like, we're going through the motions, whereas that's where we spend most of our time, right, in the journey. So we should enjoy it as best we can. And so Eric Barker talks about these three things in synchrony as like giving us more hope and the ability to keep going with these and to keep being resilient, and that it creates a upward spiral.
Yeah, it's very effective, and it really forces you to be thoughtful about what you're doing. You're not just going through the motions. You're really thinking of you're placing what you're doing in a high resolution format, which is a better way to go about life, in my opinion.
Yeah. So maybe a little exercise for you to do now that you've listened to this conversation is to jot down a couple of your sort of like big picture dreams, turn those into goals using I want, and then fill in the blanks. And then having agency, right? That's the second step. And saying, now I choose, and you put those into those bite-sized, like actionable pieces of like information or like a plan, right? An actionable plan.
Steps.
That's the word I'm looking for. Steps. And then the last one of thinking about like what could go wrong, what pathways can I create as like an escape route or a preventative measure or something like that, and using all these things.
Or what might I encounter?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And so try that out. Let us know how it goes, and we can all share, our different experiences, because it really benefits the Explearning community, and it's fun to have that conversation.
Yeah, and I think what these do is help give us a much sturdier foundation on which to pursue goals that might seem unachievable, or essentially just sort of cope with the unpredictability and frustrations that life throws at us.
Yeah, that's a good point. All right, thank you so much for joining us. Make sure that you're subscribed, that you like it, and that you hit that notification bell, because that way you'll get the updates from Explearning. All right, bye for now, and happy Explearning, of course, to all of you.
See you next time.